to Week 9 of Purdue football. The Boilermakers will be heading to Lincoln, Nebraska for the first time in program history to take on the Cornhuskers. Game time is set for 3:30 Eastern Time, 2:30 Central. We'll go ahead and get an opening statement from Coach Hazell, and then we'll take phone calls.
Well, we took last week and took some time off, much needed. We had been gone since August the 3rd practice. And I thought our guys needed a little bit of a break, so we went out basically Wednesday and Thursday, cut back practices several periods, and then went out Friday for a special situation practice, a little bit 2-minute, 4-minute, some overtime situations. Gave them Saturday off, came back on Sunday, and had a 15 perfect practice plays for Saturday's practice. I thought they looked fresh. I thought they looked rejuvenated, ready to go and play a good Nebraska team on Saturday, this coming Saturday afternoon.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go to the phone call. Pete, what do you got?
Yeah, hey, no, I guess first off, obviously you played Nebraska, you guys faced Darrell. What has made him so dominating this season?
Well, he's an incredible running back, absolutely incredible. You just watch him, he's got unbelievable patience. He's quick through the hole, he's got great balance, and he's strong. And you know, you watch him from quarter to quarter, and he just gets better as the game goes on. And he's just, in my opinion, he's a phenomenal running back.
Nebraska's offense is like second in the Big Ten and sixth nationally in points scored and on total offense. They're obviously more than just a duelist. With Armstrong at quarterback, he's kind of a dual threat guy. What kind of problems do you?
Well, you got to defend both of those guys, and I think that's the key. And you know, if you try to key on one of them, you're in trouble because the other guy can beat you with big plays, and both of those guys complement each other so well, and then they can throw it. And that's what makes them also pretty special. They can throw it out to number 80. He's a good player. And they do a great job with their combination blocks with their offensive line. So it's a very formidable offense. They got it rolling right now.
I know you've been working to kind of shore up the secondary. What do you need to see from the secondary, and in particular, what do you need to see from Landon?
Well, I think the big thing from our back end is they got to be, they can't give up those big plays in the passing game. That's what hurt us 2 weeks ago against Minnesota in the third quarter. We gave up 3 big pass plays over 30 yards, 40 yards. You can't do that. You got to make them earn every single inch when they're on offense. So we have to be better in the back end in terms of eye discipline. And then they got to come up and support the run, especially this week. We got to be able to put an 8th and a 9th hat into the box to make sure we're able to stop those 2 ball carriers.
And then when you do that, obviously you expose the back end a little bit. So you're confident in your ability to defend one-on-one if necessary.
Yeah, you got to mix it up, I think, against these guys. I think you can't play all man-to-man coverage because you don't want to turn your back on number 4 and number 8 playing man-to-man coverage. But also you have to be able to put those extra hats in the box. Sometimes you have to be able to drop those safeties down and be matched up one-on-one on the outside. So you got to have a blend of both man and zone coverage against these guys.
And in particular with Landon, what do you want to see from him?
Well, Landon's, you know, he's still dealing with some back issues, but he's just got to be able to be physical, coming downhill, and being able to make those tackles at the line of scrimmage that we're asking him to make.
Okay, thanks, Darrell.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have anybody else join us on the phone call? No? Okay, we're going to get started here in the room.
Coach, what did you want to accomplish during the off week?
Well, a couple of things. I thought we needed to get fresh again. I thought we needed to rest our bodies. We're a little beat up going into the bye week. But also clear your minds a little bit and take a step back and kind of evaluate where we are and as a football team and where you are as an individual.
And when you evaluate, where do you see where this football team is right now?
Well, I absolutely see us getting better. We have to make sure we continue that progress and process. We got to take the next step in all those close football games that we're getting closer each week. You got to maybe be able to take that next step and finish some of those games.
Is there any one aspect of the game that you really wanted to focus on with this time off?
You know, it's always third down. We did a lot of third down emphasis on Thursday, I believe it was. But you can't get enough third down work. The other situation is 2 minutes. you see it come up so often, week in and week out, with so many different football teams. And the teams that can control that 2-minute situation is usually the team that comes out ahead.
Coach, obviously, Abdullah presents a tough task, but you've gone against Langford and Cobb the last 2 games. So, what did you learn from them to help you prepare for this one?
Well, I think, each of those backs are pretty special, but I think he's really, really good. I think he's, in my opinion, I think he might be a little bit above some of those other guys that we've seen so far. I just think he's got the top end speed as well as the quickness. So to help ourselves, we have to do a great job of gang tackling. We can't expect our guys to go one-on-one with him, because you've seen him embarrass some guys in the open field. You got to be able to get more guys around the ball when he's got the ball in his hands.
What's the state of the linebacking group, and is Jawan coming along as well as you hoped?
Yeah, Jawan's done a great job. I think he just gets better each week. He gets a little bit more comfortable. He's speaking up a lot more, and I think those other guys are doing a good job too. Jimmy Herman and Danny E are doing a good job. Now, we're not very deep, which is a concern, but I think they're continually getting better. I think Coach Freeman's doing a nice job with those guys.
How have you addressed the late game turnover problem?
The late game turnover problems? Well, you always talk about the most important thing is taking care of the football. And we did an emphasis with the quarterbacks, which is probably something we hadn't done a whole lot of quarterback ball protection drill on Sunday. And because we're running it a lot more with those guys, they need to have the emphasis of taking care of the ball as well.
Good afternoon. You talked about the back half of the defense playing better, not giving up those big plays. But do you need some more pressure up front to maybe help the secondary out a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. We're not getting as much pressure as we had early in the season. You're playing better people. That's one of the issues that you're dealing with. But also, we have to be able to be one-on-one matchups. You got the offensive lineman you're going against, and we have to be able to create a little bit of pressure, make the quarterback uncomfortable, make him slide in the pocket. So, there's that fine line. Do you bring linebacker pressure? Do you bring secondary pressure? Then you leave other guys vulnerable. So it's that balance that you have to find.
Not that you're going to give away the whole game plan, but you saw some zone read against Minnesota a couple weeks ago. This is a zone read team too. I mean, do you have to approach it the same, or how do you view what you guys do this week compared to 2 weeks ago?
Well, I think we have a big emphasis today on that because they do a great job. I mean, he rides the tailback and he waits for that end to squeeze down, or he waits for the linebacker to flow, and then he pulls it out. So we have to do a good job. It's like playing option football. There's assignment football. You'll see us practice today some periods without a ball because it's about the assignment that you have as a defender. If you have the quarterback, you better go tackle the quarterback and not have poor eyes. If you have the running back, you better go tackle the running back. And that's it. You can't have your eyes in 2 different places when you play assignment football.
Just with the defensive ends that you have, is that kind of what you're talking about, where each play could be different as far as their responsibilities? Yeah,
absolutely. Sometimes they might have the quarterback, sometimes they might have the back, and we have different calls to make sure that they go to the right guy and that they have to do exactly what we're asking them to do.
Before the bye week, your offense obviously is on a pretty good roll from a momentum standpoint. Signs in the bye week that still is the case, that you feel like you still have that momentum on offense?
Well, I think the big thing about a football team is your offensive line, and they take on the characteristics of your offensive line. So our offensive line continually gets better each week. You saw it last week in the bye week. We do this sledge drill, you watch them, their pad level's getting so much better. Even the twos pad level is getting so much better. And their pop off the ball is much better. So if our offensive line can continue to improve week in and week out, you like the progress that we'll make with the entire offense.
Speaking of the offensive line, dealing with Randy Gregory, how do you approach that this week?
He's unbelievable. He's a great player. I've watched, one of the problems you have with the bye week as a coach is you get to study too much film. So, you watch all of this year's opponents, and then you go back and you watch 2013's opponent when he was wearing a different jersey, number 44. He's just an unbelievable player. So we got to make sure we do some things and they try to move him around to keep him hidden, but you can't hide that guy. He's 6'6", and he's 235, 40 pounds. He can run. So we'll have to do some things to make sure that we know exactly where he is.
You ever been to a game at Nebraska?
I've never been to a game there. We visited their staff when I was back in Army back in '98 and sat down with their staff, but I've never been to a game there.
What, Danny, he's kind of bounced between rushing and linebacker. He's a linebacker, more of a need, but is that a position you see him next year and beyond, that you like where he's at right now?
We had a chance to talk about that in our recruiting meeting the other day. Where is he going to fit in next year's class? And we're not exactly sure yet. We think he could be a rush guy because you lose those two seniors, but we're also pretty thin at linebacker, so it's nice to be able to have the flexibility to put him in either place.
Hello. You did, I guess, kind of like a self-scout then last week. When you say evaluate, is that essentially what you mean?
Self-scout of our personnel, not of our schemes, yeah.
What did you learn offensively, specifically? What you guys are doing well and what? At this point of the season, do you just focus then on what you're doing well and kind of move forward with those things and not do other things that you're not doing as well?
Well, I think the big thing for us right now is we feel like we've created an identity for ourselves offensively. Each week you have to add to the game plan to make sure teams don't catch up with you. So that's one of the things that we're continually talking about. What are the next 2 or 3 wrinkles that we have to put in off the things that we're doing well right now?
Because you guys use so many different personnel groupings, why does that matter? Like, if you're a defensive coach and you see your offense, why does that matter?
I can't answer that. I know the answer, but I can't answer that. I won't answer correctly.
Has your offensive philosophy changed here at all in the last year and a half? Did you envision being something when you first came and you're not that now?
Well, we were buttoned down pretty good last year. A lot more 2-back and 2 tight end formations last year, and probably didn't have the guys moving around as well as we like to up front to be able to knock people off the ball. But I think where we've evolved to right now is probably the direction that we need to head in and continue to do well at. Just being able to spread people out, be able to still zone block people. Every once in a while we'll hit a power, not very often, but we'll run some toss and be able to do all the misdirection, eye discipline, eye candy things that keep some guys rocking the wrong way.
You had quite a few key guys last week on defense who didn't practice, whether it was Frankie or Landon or Howard or Russell didn't go on Friday. Where do those guys stand right now, and did that help them last week?
That was by intention, to make sure those guys get the rest that they need to get. All 3 of them, Rajan and Frankie and Ryan Russell. And we're going to even taper them off a little bit today. There's specific things that they need to be able to get in today's practice. But it's about showing up for the game on Saturday and making sure those guys are ready to go.
Hello. With Mostert, after he got removed as the starter a few weeks back, didn't have very much productivity those couple weeks after, but sort of has rediscovered his niche a little bit and role. Are you happy with sort of how he has come back from that and find a way in which to impact the team?
Well, I think he's been a team guy. I really do. He was removed early. Akeem has been playing extremely well. And Raheem, we said last week that we need to get speed on the field. And, we can hit those 6 and 7 yard plays, or he can misread it once or twice or 3 times. But the time he reads it right, it's a potential touchdown. And that's what happened for us against Minnesota. And, it's just there's no substitution for a guy that can run as fast as he can run if we can get him to the second level. And I think that's where he's done a nice job for us.
And him not being in as the starter, not getting as many snaps on offense has allowed him to play a little bit more special teams for you, right? He's proven that either in coverage or kickoffs or whatever, that he can be an impactful player there.
He's our best cover guy on punt, and that's helped him be able to be fresh on that unit, and as well as obviously the kickoff return team. But he's accepted all those different roles and niches that we put him in, and has done a very good job.
What more do you need, or what do you need differently out of your outside receivers to help spur that downfield passing game a little bit more?
Well, obviously, the big thing is you got to be able to uncover yourself. And anytime you get man-to-man coverage, which we've seen for 8 weeks, press coverage on the outside, and we're going to continue to get press. They have to continue to develop and play hard without the ball in their hands. That's the number one thing for a receiver. You got to play hard without the ball in your hands, meaning before that ball's thrown to you, you got to work to get yourself open. And that's where we have to develop some of those young guys, and that'll help them cut themselves free.
It sounds like that could be relatively easy. It's harder in application, though, than what it just sounds, right?
Yeah, it's much harder than application. I mean, it's about technique. It's about patience. A lot of times, young guys don't have patience at the line of scrimmage. They think they're getting press coverage, so they got to rush. That's not the case. I mean, a good receiver will spend some time at the line of scrimmage, work the defender, and get himself open late. That's when you want to get open. You don't want to get open early. You want to get open late.
You mentioned that personnel meeting you had in regards to recruiting. Just what did you come up with? What are some of the priorities you think, looking at the big picture now with who you've got coming in and who you've got coming back? What do you need?
Well, we looked at a roster right now. We have 17 seniors that are on scholarship. We have 6 open spots that to get you to 23. You're always going to have some attrition. So we were thinking class of 25, but you look across the board. We need some defensive linemen. We need some linebackers, obviously, and those are probably the priority positions right now. But also, we're young at the offensive line. We got 2 guys that will be seniors next year in Kugler and Headland. So the other guys are all young players, so you can probably go a little bit lighter there in terms of numbers. But you have to get a stud wide receiver in this class. And obviously, you can take some backs because you're losing all those backs that you're taking. And we need a little bit of everything, but there's certain positions that you need more of right now.
Both Joe and Sean now had their surgeries?
Sean had his this morning. Joe had his, I think, 2 weeks ago. Sean went home to have his this morning, so he's should be out of the operating room by now.
For all you know, they've gone well.
Joe's has gone very well. I have not talked to anyone about Sean's yet, but I'm assuming he did a good job.
Just needed to ask you a couple of questions about Nebraska. Just to start off, you already kind of touched on the challenges Amir Abdullah presents. Can you just kind of elaborate on him and just sort of what sets him apart, what kind of makes him special?
He's a complete back, and you can see on film how unselfish he is. When the quarterback pulls it, he's jumping around and supporting those guys, but he can block, he can catch it out of the backfield. He's unbelievable. For 190 pounds, he runs like he's 2 1/4. Very physical, and he's got great quickness. And when he gets in the open space, he really breaks people down. He's a pretty special player.
What about the run game in general? Just on top of the talent they have in the backfield, what makes them really good systematically?
Well, they don't do a whole lot of different things, but what they do is they run a lot of zone read, and to give the quarterback the option of giving the ball or pulling the ball. And he's a good runner with the ball. Now, obviously, he's not the same as 8 is, but he's a really good runner with the football. And he knows how to make those yards that they need to make.
It seems like Armstrong's pretty effective in the option game, but he's also got a really big arm, too. How big of a challenge is that when you have a quarterback who can do a few different things like that?
Well, you got to commit on defense to be able to take one thing away and try to make them as one-dimensional as you can. And obviously, if you can stop the run, which is a formidable task, as you watch the course of the season, if you can stop the run and make them one-dimensional, then it helps your chances. But again, you got to go back to committing guys to the box to be able to do that.
Seems like they, or from what some people who cover them have said, they really like to pressure with the front four without doing a lot of extra stuff, but that's a pretty good front four.
That's very accurate, too. I mean, they really feel good about their front four. Number 7's a great inside player. Number 4 is a great outside player. And those guys get after you. And they're twisting and stunning. And, on third down situations, look for number 4 to line in a lot of different places. They try to keep him protected. And they are very athletic up front. And you know what they do very well, I think, you know, more so than the teams that we've played before, is they play this match zone coverage in the back end, which means that it starts looking like zone at first, and all of a sudden everybody's manned up, and they do a great job of switching off the crossing routes and the up the field routes.
Anything else for Coach Hazell? No? Appreciate your time, Coach.
All right, thank you.